Hey, what's going on? Welcome. It's The Rational Live. I'm your host, David Dole. How are you all today? It's April 16th, 2021. A lot to talk about today. Some weeks I feel like I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel when it comes to finding stories that I want to talk about. This week, though, there's an abundance of stories, and a lot of them, unfortunately, didn't have time to flesh out, as I am only one man, but a lot of good stories today. So before I even get to anything, I want to just mention YouTube is being horrible this week. Several videos demonetized. The video that I put out yesterday on the what happened to that 13-year-old boy. I'm being careful with words here in case YouTube dings me again. The video I put out yesterday, age restricted. Even though I didn't show anything gruesome in that video is being shown on other channels with no restrictions at all. But for whatever reason, my video age restricted. So a lot of weird stuff this week, but it's typical for YouTube to do that kind of stuff, which is why I, of course, need your help. So support the show on Patreon at therationalnational.com/join. Links are also below the video in the description box. You could also join on YouTube if that's easier for you. But just so you know, Patreon takes a smaller cut than YouTube does. YouTube is horrible in that sense, but if you prefer on YouTube, that's fine. Also, PayPal links and other ways to support the show underneath in the description box as well. So help out if you can. If not, no big deal. As long as you share the videos around, that also helps me. As the hardest part really is getting new people to see the channel. If you're in any other industry on YouTube, say makeup tutorials or technology or cars, the vast majority of their views are going to come from non-subscribers. So people that just, fall upon a video sitting on YouTube, they get suggested videos. That's typically most viewers are from people that are not subscribed. When it comes to independent media on YouTube, it's the complete opposite. The vast majority of our viewers are subscribers, meaning that our videos are not being suggested to people who are not subscribed, or at least not at the same rates as they are in other industries. So it's a constant issue when it comes to YouTube and this work, which is why it's important to share these videos around if you can. That also helps a lot. All right, there's a lot. Let me give you a little preview of what I will talk about today. So I'm going to get to another broken Joe Biden promise in a second here. That's my top story. Let me scroll up here. What else today? An incredible appearance by Jeffrey Sachs on the BBC. I will share that and discuss what that's about. Also, a Democratic lawmaker going on Morning Joe and just slamming Joe Scarborough. Really enjoyed that. I will share that as well. Also, Doug Ford. Ontario Premier Doug Ford makes a fool out of himself again. So I have that clip, and there's actually a couple of clips in that segment. And tweets of the week, back again. I think this is a record. What is this, 3 weeks in a row? Maybe 4 weeks in a row? Breaking records here. So a lot of great content, actually, in tweets of the week. Content that I could have turned into entire videos, but I found a way to quickly go over them in tweets of the week this week. All right. Man, I feel like I'm talking a mile a minute. All right. Let me get to this first story. Just finding it in my rundown. All right. Democratic lawmakers are slamming Joe Biden for another broken promise. Let me start over again. Democratic lawmakers are slamming Joe Biden for another broken promise. This one about refugees. So first, before I get into the promise that was broken specifically, let me first start with this op-ed that Biden wrote, or part of it, in 2019. He wrote this. Quote, "My faith teaches me that we should be a nation that once again welcomes the stranger and shows a preferential option for the poor, remembering how so many of us and our ancestors came here in a similar way. It's not enough to just wish the world were better. It's our duty to make it so." What incredible words. Incredible words from Joe Biden. Of course, Joe Biden, as usual, all talk. Here's what just happened. So as recently as February, President Joe Biden decried his predecessor for the historically low cap placed on the admission of refugees into the United States. He proposed raising the cap to more than 60,000 this year and 125,000 the next. Yet on Friday, Biden signed an emergency determination that keeps in place the Trump administration's limit of only 15,000 refugee admissions per year. The decision was decried by Democrats in Congress. So I'll get to some of that reaction in a minute here. But to put these numbers in context, because you see this out of context, it can be, it's hard to place these numbers if you don't really have anything to compare it to. So let me show you what Canada has. So this is as of 2019 or 2018, the actual numbers, but this is consistent as Trump was still president until last year. Canada now brings in more refugees than the U.S. And this is not just per capita. We're talking about overall. So even though the U.S. has 10 times the population of Canada, Canada brings in or resettles more refugees than the U.S. does. So you can see here how the numbers break down. Under Obama, big numbers coming in. So Obama's last year, almost 100,000. And then once Trump came in, it dropped immediately down to about 30,000. And then dropped even further in 2018, where Canada surpassed the U.S. here. So the U.S. at this point around just under 30,000, it looks like. And now, 2019, 2020 was down to 15,000. So Canada resettling more refugees, even though we have 10 times, or even though the U.S. has 10 times the population. And more data on that if you want to go through it. You can look up Pew Research. They have several graphs on this breaking down similar numbers showing you just how low the U.S. numbers are compared to Canada. Now, some of the reactions here from Democrats. Ilhan Omar tweeting out, as a refugee, I know finding a home is a matter of life or death for children around the world. It is shameful that POTUS is reneging on a key promise to welcome refugees moments after Tchaikovsky and Jayapal, myself and others, called on him to increase the refugee cap. AOC here, tweeting out, completely and utterly unacceptable. Biden promised to welcome immigrants and people voted for him based on that promise. Upholding the xenophobic and racist policies of the Trump admin, including the historically low and plummeted refugee cap, is flat out wrong. Keep your promise. Last one here. This is Adam Serwer, who is not a Democrat, but a staff writer at The Atlantic. Tweets out, Biden maintaining Stephen Miller's refugee policy is not something anyone should defend. It's a disgrace. So this really puts it into perspective here. Joe Biden's refugee policy right now, the exact same as Stephen Miller's was under Donald Trump. Just another broken promise. And this one, you know, I assume more Democrats are going to come out. I think more have come out and criticize this, but criticisms on Twitter are only going to take it so far. They have to actually be able to utilize their power, hold up bills, do something that will frustrate Biden to the point that forces him into action. Until that happens, I don't see Biden changing this policy. All right. Halfway through that segment, I realized I had not recorded on my program, which is fine. I can capture the video later because I, of course, cut these all out into segments later. But that is really annoying. Anyways, of course, throughout this entire stream as well, I will take your super chats as they come in. Samantha Sider here sent me a nice thumbs up. Thank you so much, Samantha. Always a big supporter of the channel. All right. I'm going to prep this next story, and I'll be right back. All right, back. This is probably a quick segment, but we'll see. Jeffrey Sachs, who is the director of the Center for Sustainable Development at Columbia University, was on the BBC where he called out media propaganda by ripping apart the first question he was asked on the BBC. So I'm going to play this clip for you and discuss it.
I'm joined now by UN advisor Jeffrey Sachs, who's also the director of the Earth Institute, which looks at how to promote the mitigation of human-induced climate change, and the lawyer and human rights activist Teng Biao, who's exiled from China and is now a professor at Hunter College in New York. Jeffrey, if I can begin with you, the Biden administration has been strongly critical of China's actions on human rights, but engaging on climate change. Do you see that as a strategy that can actually work?
I'm not sure why BBC started with listing only China's human rights abuses. What about America's human rights abuses? The Iraq War, together with the UK, completely illegal and under false pretenses. The war in Syria, the war in Libya, the continued sanctions against civilian populations in Venezuela and Iran, walking away from the Paris Climate Agreement for the last 4 years, unilateral trade actions that have been deemed illegal by WTO. So one can make anything one wants, but we have really serious human rights violations by the United States abroad, not to mention in insurrection on January 6th in our own country, not to mention the continued massive racism, white supremacism, and abuse of incarceration of hundreds of thousands of people in the U.S., Black, African-American people of color. So I think that the whole premise of this story is a little bit odd.
No, but sorry, I'm looking. We have to look. If I may, we have to look.
I found the framing of it not what I expected. I thought we were going to talk about climate change, which we should. But I think that the idea that there is one party that is so guilty, how can we talk to them, is just a strange way to address this issue.
Well, hang on. Sorry, Jeffrey. If I could come, Jeffrey. I'm hoping we can have a conversation. I'm hoping we can have a conversation. And if I could just say, I'm using, and what I'm saying back to you here is, we're also using the framing of.
All right. I'm not sure you'll see Jeffrey Sachs on the BBC again. I do want to make it clear, I see no issue with calling out China's human rights abuses, but Jeffrey Sachs is making the point here that when discussing human rights abuses, mainstream media in the West only ever brings up America's enemies. There's human rights abuses, as he listed there, a lot of them, all across the world that are caused because of America and its allies, whether it's, the war in Iraq, sanctions on various countries around the world that only really work to hurt the people in those countries, the Saudi-led war in Yemen, the Israeli government's treatment of Palestinians in the occupied territories. So we can go on and on and on with that. But he makes the correct point here that it's odd to only ever focus on the human rights abuses by America's enemies, or I should say the American government's enemies, as opposed to looking at human rights across the globe. And of course, this is not just an issue in American media, also clearly an issue on the BBC and British media. So a very rare moment here for someone to be invited on a mainstream media show and call them out, but this is one of the best examples that I've seen. All right. What up? All right, more coming. More in a minute. One more chat here. Lawn Gnomes, of course, a big supporter, says, check Streamlabs too. YouTube doesn't deserve a cut. Yeah. There's also the Streamlabs tip link below the video as well. I should actually, I think you can send a question when you do that. But Streamlabs has been working oddly recently, so I don't get the notifications anymore. But I'll have to check that later. But yeah, Streamlabs as well. YouTube takes the biggest cut out of anybody, and they treat us the worst. So just so you're aware of that. That said, super chats, very welcome, of course. And I'm happy to answer and bring up any comment. All right, let me pause there and gonna set up the next story. I will be right back. I'm right back. See, told you it was quick. This is another quick one, possibly. Another clip that I'll get to in a second here. And then I'll get to the Doug Ford story and bring up some other ones, maybe, that I didn't prep in time. And also, of course, get to Tweets of the Week, which there's a lot of them. And they're really all a bunch of mini stories. But before I do that, here we go. All right. Democratic Congressman and DCCC Chair Sean Patrick Maloney slammed MSNBC's Joe Scarborough for pushing Republican talking points. Check it out.
So a couple of quick things, and forgive me for repeating the same question, but maybe I need to say it a different way. Do Democrats support defunding the police, first of all? And secondly, the Cook Political Report said that Democrats lost 25.
Before I even go on, I just want to mention, look how the framing changes depending on your view on this issue. Here, apparently, Joe Scarborough is blasting the DCCC chair. But I think, as you'll see, it's pretty clear it's the other way around. But anyways, let's keep going.
The same question, but maybe I need to say it a different way. Do Democrats support defunding the police, first of all? And secondly, the Cook Political Report said that Democrats lost 25 of 25 contested House races in 2020. And I think most analysts believe that, at least in the House races, Democrats badly underperformed expectations. So address those two. And again, if you could specifically answer the question, and again, it's not the question that I'm asking, it's a question that Republicans will continue to ask. Do Democrats support defunding the police?
Right. The answer is no. And you are asking the question, and you're repeating a Republican talking point for reasons I don't know. Excuse me.
Let me tell you why.
I'm trying to answer your question,
excuse me. I'll tell you why I'm repeating it, because you all did such a damn poor job of answering that, such a poor job of answering socialism questions, such a poor job about answering cancel culture questions. That's why I'm repeating it, because if you believe that Kevin McCarthy should be Speaker of the House, keep pretending that none of that happened and keep saying that the House did a good job in 2020, because they did not. House Democrats did a poor job. So my question is, are you going into 2022 with eyes wide open?
Right. So as my friend Maxine Waters said to Jim Jordan, you're ranting again. But here's, if you'll allow me to answer your question.
If you don't
can I answer the question? Can I answer the question?
If you don't really care whether Democrats win or not in 2022, okay, let our viewers know that.
All right. I think that gives you an idea of what went on there. Now, Joe Scarborough here. First of all, I want to just show you how some people view this as Joe blasting the DCCC chair for repeatedly dodging whether he supports defunding the police. He answered it very clearly with a no. Now, I don't agree with him, but he answered the question very clearly. Now, the idea that Democrats lost seats in 2020 over defund the police and socialism is absolutely hilarious when the Democratic Party as a whole does not support defunding the police or socialism. How can you possibly blame how can you possibly blame those slogans or ideologies as for Democrats losing when the party does not support those things? You are simply putting a Republican smear on the Democratic Party and claiming that's the reason they lost, when there's, first of all, they don't support it. Second of all, not a single progressive Democrat lost their seat in 2020. Not a single progressive Democrat. The only Democrats that lost their seat in 2020 were conservatives or so-called moderate Democrats. And do you ever see, the morning Joes of the media, the more conservative minded individuals, do you see them ever criticize this consistent failure to actually reach out to working class voters and speak to their issues? They'll occasionally talk about it rhetorically. They'll say, oh, Democrats should reach out to those voters, but they won't discuss the actual policy that brings those people out, like raising wages, like health care for all, issues that these conservatives don't support. How can you possibly blame progressive ideas for the losses when the people that lost their seats were not progressives? Many of the members that lost, we're not even not in support of those issues. They were actively fighting against them. They were the loudest against so-called socialism. Several Democratic House seats in Florida lost, and those Democratic candidates were specifically targeting the idea that they're not socialist, and they lost their seats. So the ones that were fighting most against this idea of defund the police and socialism, those were the Democrats that lost. And only a handful of actual Democratic lawmakers support defunding the police. And guess what? They all won their seats. Rashida Tlaib, Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman. And maybe Mondaire Jones, AOC, I'm not sure what their positions are, or Ilhan Omar. I'm not exactly sure what their positions are in defunding the police. But I know for sure Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, Rashida Tlaib all support it. They all won their seats. So is that ever brought up here? No, of course not. So it's just, this is more Republican talking points. It doesn't matter whether progressives win or lose. It's always going to be somehow the left's fault for Democrats losing, when clearly, based on all the evidence, it's the opposite. All right. It's fun to get back into that election mindset. Seeing all their bullshit once again pop back up. All right. More chats here. Fander says, no question, I can't come up with anything to ask. I'll just give you money, LOL. Well, thank you so much. I'm always open to that. Thank you. Humanist Report, Mr. Mike Figueredo, what's up? Says, I'm not sure how much diapers are, but here's some diaper money for baby Dole from Uncle Mike. Thank you, Uncle Mike. My baby will absolutely appreciate that. He definitely needs some more diapers, so I will make sure that your money goes directly towards new diapers. Now, there's another chat there that is being cut off by YouTube, so let me open up a different tab so I can read it. It's really funny to me. YouTube is so dominant in this space, and still, they have serious user interface issues. It's actually incredible. Page wasn't loading. All right, let me bring this up. Here we go. Chris Chuck says, hey, David, I saw a woman at work in a conservative college town in Texas wearing a QAnon t-shirt and baseball cap. I was so disgusted, LOL. Yeah, that'll happen. I have luckily not seen that. Actually, one day I was driving on the road where you drive, and I was behind a pickup truck that had a bunch of bumper stickers on the back, and it was all the most craziest shit you've ever seen. QAnon, Trump, and I'm in Canada. It was just plastered with insanity. That was the only time I've really had a public interaction or seen someone like that here. But considering I'm not in America, you really shouldn't expect it. Thoughtquake says, thanks for all you do, David. Stay healthy. Thank you. I will try. With the COVID numbers getting crazy, the story I'm getting to next in Ontario, it's something that is constantly on my mind. Especially, we now know that at least 2 people in my building have COVID and don't know who they are. Don't know where they're located exactly in the building, but we know at least 2 people in the building have it. And basically every time I leave my apartment, it's like I can come back with COVID-19. It's really shitty here right now. But yeah, sorry. The next several minutes may be depressing as I cover what's happening here in Ontario. So I'll be right back as I prep this story. I said this story is kind of depressing, and it is, but it's also maybe a little funny, as you're going to see Doug Ford make a fool out of himself. So that's always enjoyable. Ontario keeps breaking COVID-19 records. All this week, we broke our own record for new COVID-19 cases with over 4,000 new cases a couple of times, and it just keeps getting worse. Now, a major part of the problem has been Ontario Premier Doug Ford, who's failed us in a variety of ways. One of those ways has been a lack of paid sick days. So if you're an essential worker and you're feeling kind of sick, you might have COVID-19, you still go to work, give everyone else COVID-19, come home, have it yourself. It gets worse, and it's never properly dealt with. Frontline workers, essential workers, have not been the focus of the vaccinations in this province, and that's been part of the issue. But lack of paid sick days has been another major issue, and NDP leader Andrea Horwath questioned Doug Ford about this. And as you'll see from the pop-ups in the video, Doug Ford lied his way through this answer. In fact, maybe I'll put this one full screen. Also, before I even get to it, I'll give him credit afterwards as well. But James Waddy from CBC, he put this together, and you will see what happens. Full screen. Where are we? Let's try this.
Every single expert has been telling this premier that those frontline heroes, those essential workers, the people he pretends to care about, the little guy needs paid sick days.
And the negative talk that comes out of the leader of the opposition, again, does a disservice to all of the frontline healthcare heroes. No matter if it's Dr. Williams or Dr. Brown and the 100 doctors underneath them, or if it's Dr. Davila or Dr. Lowe, that all are giving advice, all working their back off.
I'm back.
Every single.
So as you see from that video, and thanks to James Waddy here from CBC for putting this together, all those headlines that popped up, if I can give you a closer look, they're all of the doctors he's mentioning that are actually in support of paid sick days, claiming that they don't support it. Obviously, paid sick days would help to limit the spread of COVID-19. Do I really have to explain this again? If you feel sick, you get to stay home and still be able to make money to live. So if you have COVID-19, stay home and don't risk spreading it to other people, especially if you're working in a public setting. But if you're an essential worker and you have to rely on that paycheck to live, and you simply are, worried that if you take a day off, you're going to lose pay, maybe lose your job, it becomes a serious issue. Paid sick days, definitely a major piece of this. I'm going to have another video coming up in a second here. But I also want to discuss the other issues at hand here when it comes to the vaccine rollout, or the pandemic in general. Yes, Justin Trudeau and the Liberals, as I've covered a number of times, of course, there's a lot of blame to go on Trudeau and the Liberals. I got an email last week from somebody complaining to me that I criticize Doug Ford, but I don't criticize Justin Trudeau. If you go through my videos, just go to the channel, go to the search bar in the channel and type in Trudeau. You will see all my videos on Justin Trudeau throughout this pandemic and even before that. And I'm not sure there's one positive video about Justin Trudeau. I've had a lot of criticisms of Justin Trudeau, but you can't simply ignore the role of the Premier of Ontario and the role of premiers in general across Canada and their responsibility in rolling out the vaccine. We still are not focusing on essential frontline workers. They're the ones that are spreading the virus around through no fault of their own. They're people that have to go to work. They are public-facing positions, or people working in factories with 300 people. These are the people that you should be prioritizing when you're vaccinating. But we have not done that, and the new variants that have popped up are right now dominating the cases in Canada and are leading to this massive increase in infections because they are so much more transmissible than the original COVID-19. Now, one more video here. So this is Dr. Callie Barrett basically explaining the situation in Ontario.
What you described sounds like a war.
I really can't think of a better analogy. And the really tragic thing is that those in the line of fire are the people who are most vulnerable in our society. So right now, the people getting sick with COVID-19 are not the wealthy people who can work from home who are probably getting vaccinated. The people who are getting sick with COVID-19 are the people who have no choice but to leave their house and expose themselves to the virus at work. And they may or may not have been vaccinated, and they may or may not have the agency and the social capital while they go to work to speak up if they're in an unsafe environment. And when they do get sick, they're probably going home to a very crowded household with multi-generations living in the same building or household. And if they do get sick, the likelihood that they're going to infect everyone that they live with is very high. I took care of a patient this week in the hospital who had COVID-19 and was desperate to leave against medical advice while he was on 100% oxygen because his wife, his wife's mother, and his 6-year-old child all had COVID at home. And he was freaking out that his wife couldn't handle looking after everyone in his family. Entire families are getting sick with this. And it is affecting the most vulnerable in our society. It is infecting those with the least social capital to be able to speak up for themselves, those with the least amount of representation right now in cabinet and in government. And it's completely unmasked the inequities in our society. And I'm angry, and I'm sure you can see the anger in my voice. Yep. It is not the way I ever expected things to happen in this country.
We are simply not focusing the vaccination rollout on the people that need it most. There is a long way to go before Ontario and Canada in general is out of this. All right, there's your depressing story of the day. So still tweets of the week coming up. I don't know. Maybe I'll touch on some of these other stories I didn't get to because I don't think I'll ever have a chance to do a video on them. So maybe more coming up as well. Let me first check to see if there are any more chats. Mr. Sir says, my state, Utah, plans on suing Biden over restoring our national monuments. Most of my state wants them restored, but the politicians want mine/oil money. Interesting. I wonder how that'll go. Radzoso says, perhaps a more effective term would be reallocate police funding. Yeah, sure. Sure. But whatever. It's the same thing. Like I never even... I understand the issue. Yes, I guess some people see defund the police as abolish, but those are different words that mean different things. I never saw defund as something that meant get rid of police completely. It just means defund, take money away. It's not defund police completely, it's defund the police. But I do hear what you're saying. The issue isn't, how I view it. The issue is how the public views it. And unfortunately, the public don't know shit. So we have to, I agree with you. I think we should try and, at least people like me, I should try and explain. I mean, I do explain the term, but I should maybe use a different slogan and not even talk about defund. But unfortunately, it's... messaging is an issue we're always going to be up against because it's so much easier to be reactionary than it is to actually sit and think about an issue and educate yourself. And you see that, in most people who really are apolitical, they're reactionary because they don't know any better. And we have to be aware of that and use their language as a way to educate them. Harpoon McPherce says, only been watching your channel for a short time. Love what you're doing. ? Do you see yourself collaborating with other online lefties or even possibly debates in the future? So I'm not really a debate guy. I view myself more as an educational entertainer, and commentator, obviously. There are people who are really good at debates, really, quick on their feet. I think Vosh, in my opinion, is the best that I've seen. He does an incredible job, regardless of who he's debating. He's fantastic. So there's already a field of people that do do it a lot better than I would ever do it. So I don't see a reason for me to enter that field. But collaborating, yeah, sure. I'm always down for having people on or going on people's show. The issue with me is I'm just very antisocial. So, I mean, somebody has to ask me. I'm always open if somebody asks me, but I'm rarely the person to take the first step. And that isn't even just YouTube, that's general in life. So if people want to collab with me, reach out to me, let me know. And, I'll have you on or other way around. All right, let me get to something else. Speaking of which, of collaborating, Mike Figueredo, Humanist Report, we're planning to game sometime soon, so I hope that happens. But he's been doing more on Twitch. I'm also on Twitch every week now, basically every week, usually. I'm laughing because oftentimes I don't actually make it. But Sunday nights, if I'm on Sunday nights, and having a great time on there, especially with the way, with how YouTube can be. It's important to sort of have all our bases covered, be everywhere. And I just enjoy the interaction on Twitch. It's a lot, since there's a lot less people watching, because I have a smaller audience there, it's a lot easier to interact with, every chat that comes in and have a conversation. And I enjoy that. And of course, I like to play video games. So that's usually a big piece of it. All right. Should I do tweets of the week now? Maybe I will. I'll do tweets of the week, and then I will come back and hit on some other stories, potentially. There's several things here I wish I did videos on. I may save some of these for later. But let me prep tweets of the week, and I'll be right back. All right, sorry. There was a lot there. And there was one that I wanted to find a better tweet for that I finally did. So there we go. All right. Let's do it. And as I said earlier, a lot of these could have been their own story. But that's maybe kind of what Tweets of the Week will turn into. It's just stories that I didn't have time to actually do. It is time once again for Tweets of the Week. This is the segment that I do every week where I highlight tweets that stood out to me. Now, some of these are actually more newsworthy stories that I just didn't get to actually cover, but I did want to share some of this. So let me first start off here with this incredible video. Daytona Beach police are searching for the person who drove through a drawbridge crossing arm and jumped the bridge as it was rising into the air. So let's check out this hero. Look at that. Now, you know, the bridge wasn't the highest. It's maybe just began to move. But who hasn't at some point thought about doing this? Of course, no one ever actually does because it's completely insane. And you should not do it either. Horrible idea. But look at this. Just slams right through the crossing arm. What car is this? A Toyota? Honda? Subaru? I actually can't tell what this is. Usually I'm pretty good with cars. I don't know. So many crossovers look the same. But anyways, there he is jumping over the bridge. Not much else to really share here. Just thought that was wild. This is, I'm sure a lot of you saw this, but I'm not sure if all of you saw or understood the reference. So I'm going to play this clip and check this out.
Yeah. Well, I've been here all 4 nights. I'm just standing here today with soup for my family, and we're just, watching all of this unfold. It's very unfortunate.
You're not planning on using that, are you? Throwing it at the police?
Like I said, it's for my family.
Literally for your family.
Yeah.
All right.
And then when they get caught, they say, no, this is soup for my family. They're so innocent. This is soup for my family. It's incredible. And you have people coming over with bags of soup, big bags of soup.
Yeah. Well, I've been...
Yes, hilarious reference. Soup for my family. Now, when Trump first said this, everyone laughed because nobody was doing that, obviously. And it's clear this guy was making a reference to Trump's insane comments. Wonderful man right there. All right, next up, this incredible story. I could have done a whole video on this, though I'm not sure how long it really would have been, but Liberal MP William Amos apologized in a statement Wednesday after he appeared on the screens of his fellow members of Parliament naked. So this Liberal MP, according to his story, he just came back from a run and, was getting changed, and just so happened, camera was on. Just so happened, apparently he's also in really good shape. I'm sure. I'm sure it was an accident. Now, maybe it probably was an accident, but how can you be so stupid? I really don't understand how people, I mean, I guess there's several stories like this now. I don't know how you don't realize it. And if you're worried it may happen to you, just, put like a piece of tape or something over your camera until you're actually in front of it. It's just wild that anyone can do this, and it happening to a Liberal MP is pretty funny. I saw this headline. Wild. CBS LA here saying, bizarre hate crime. A Lake Forest man of Korean descent faces a hate crime charge for allegedly attacking an Asian woman, believing she was white, apparently in retaliation for the rise in hate crimes against Asians. How insane is this story? He attacks an Asian woman thinking she's white because he wants to go after white people for the rise in Asian hate crimes. And I hear you, brother, but this is not the way to do it. And even his attempt here just completely botched it. I hope that lady's all right, though. Next, Sean Lim. Intersection of Freeway Boulevard and Shingle Creek Crossing, Brooklyn Center just now. The state of Minnesota always has unlimited resources to throw at military occupations of mourning neighborhoods protesting police brutality. They value protection of property over civilian lives. There is an endless supply of resources, of money, when it comes to defense, when it comes to policing. But if you actually want to help people, you want to house the homeless, you want everyone to be guaranteed health care, you want to increase funding into education, No money. No money to actually help people. But when it comes to defense spending, when it comes to policing, just unlimited budgets. And apparently that's when, the deficit doesn't matter. It doesn't matter then. Only matters when you want to help people. A couple of tweets here that I've actually highlighted in a previous video that I did, but they were so great. I want to end with these two. So Bernice King here tweeted out, "I cannot fathom passionate concern about Dr. Seuss, but not about Dante Wright." And this describes a lot of people. I mean, it describes most conservatives freaking out about cancel culture. Oh, Dr. Seuss canceled 6 books. We're going to punish Dr. Seuss by buying up all their books. That's what happened. I'm not sure if they realized that the Dr. Seuss company decided that they were the ones to cancel the books. But freaking out about Dr. Seuss, about Potato Head, and, when someone gets shot by police who was no threat to the police, complete silence. They don't care. Last tweet here, Isaiah James. This is just a perfect tweet. "I thought it was my taser. I thought it was my apartment. I thought his cell phone was a gun. I thought he was reaching for something. I thought he was resisting. I thought I feared for my life. The most dangerous place for black people to live is in white people's imagination." These, of course, are all referencing various times that police shot and killed somebody, shot and killed a black person. And here perfectly spells it out that this is just the way that police in general approach black people. The way they are, it's always this heightened level of anxiety for no reason at all. And then they excuse it away by saying, "Oh, I got the wrong apartment. I thought it was my taser. I thought his phone was a gun." And on and on and on it goes. Endless excuses, and oftentimes, of course, none of them actually held accountable. All right. That's it. That's it for Tweets of the Week. Several other stories here. But give me a minute. If there's any more chats, I'll do those, and then I'll get to some of these stories. Jessica McKenzie here says, "Hi, David. Is Biden really a Republican or Democrat? Or is he a far-right Democrat?" So he comes off as a Republican. "Feeling frustrated. Sorry to hear it's so bad in your neck of woods." Well, those are just parties, right? So technically he is a Democrat. But in terms of ideology, no, he is conservative. Absolutely. Biden is a conservative. He's been polled to slightly better positions over the course of his career, I should say, over the course of the last 6 months. But they're not something that is really worth celebrating, as his default position, of course, is always to be reacting to conservative outrage or conservative propaganda. That's Biden's default position. And when you see, he's just continuing Trump's policy on refugee resettlement, it shows you that his default position is to be a conservative. Juna McGrath says, "Hey, David, which one of these legends is the GOAT, in your opinion? Cornel West, Richard Wolff, or Noam Chomsky?" Like, who's the best of the three? I mean, it depends what you're talking about. For me, it's Cornel West. Like, he's my favorite of the three. But they all serve a purpose. I mean, they all are great at what they do in their various areas. So I feel like it's, almost a disservice to say that only one of them is the GOAT. I think they're all the GOAT in their fields. Car Wash Freak 97 says, "Selfish anti-vaxxers pose a threat to vax progress." I agree with you, but right now that isn't the biggest barrier. I mean, that's maybe a long-term fear. Once most people that want the vaccine are vaccinated, then we can talk about, anti-vaxxers. But in the short term, I have been wanting a vaccine since the beginning of the pandemic, and I cannot get one. If there is one thing that triggers me, I'm sorry to say, it's seeing Americans get vaccinated, because it's like, why don't I have one? And to be fair, I don't really need one right now. People in this country that actually need one are frontline workers. But in general, people that want the vaccine still, at least in Canada, are not able to get it. So once we get those people all vaccinated, we can worry about the anti-vaxxers. But for now, it's not really a major part of the problem. Mr. Meme says, do you think the protests will pick up attention again after the recent increase in police violence? I think you're already seeing that. But do you mean like, I guess, sustained protests? I think yes, especially as more and more people are vaccinated in America, you will see a continued protest movement. I do think so. Jessica McKenzie says, it's a mad world we live in, David. It is. It's a very mad world. All right. Should I show some of these stories that I did not do? Oh, 2 more chats here before I move on. Sam O says, hey, David, can you do a segment on the 6 Republican that votes against the COVID hate crime? The COVID hate crime? I don't know what that is. The COVID hate crime. I'll need more information on what a COVID hate crime is. I don't know. Ken M says, I owe you. All right. Thank you, Ken. I don't know for what, but I appreciate it. If I can figure out what you're talking about, previous chat, I will answer. I just don't know what you're talking about. All right. All right. Let me see here. What did I not get to this week? I know there are maybe a couple of clips. Maybe we can do those. Okay, let me do this first. I'm not going to do like an actual story here. I just want to share this because of how wild this would be. But here in Canada, a Liberal MP is sponsoring a petition calling for criticism of police to be classified as a form of hate speech. Anti-hate groups say that using hate speech laws to shield police from public criticism is extremely inappropriate. Now, this is not going to go anywhere. This is just, he's in support of some politician, or he gave words in support of some politician that is completely ridiculous. It's not going to go anywhere. But if this were to actually pass, I would be sent to jail. I mean, I have done several videos criticizing the police for things they have done wrong, including in Canada. So, in fact, I have several videos. If you look up wellness check, several videos of so-called wellness checks happening in Canada that just lead to the person they're checking on getting killed or injured. One was police literally breaking into an elderly man's home in Mississauga over a wellness check. They couldn't get into his house so his family called for a wellness check on him. The police show up and break into his house. He lives in an apartment, or lived in an apartment. On the second floor, they went up his balcony. Maybe I'll bring the video up on this, but you guys, if you didn't hear this story, it is completely nuts. They break into his back door through his balcony, and of course the scared old man is holding a knife because he's wondering why someone breaking into my house, and they shoot him. They shoot him dead because they here it is. So it was Ejaz Chowdhury, I believe his name was. Cops break in, kill elderly man during wellness check. And there's been several others. So cops respond to woman's wellness check with brute force. Cops step on woman's head during wellness check. So these are all in Canada. Just completely insane stories. But apparently, according to this Liberal MP here, hate speech. It's hate speech to criticize the police for doing unlawful things. Thankfully, this will go nowhere, but it's completely insane to even think that this should be a law. All right, another chat here. Multiple tabs going in front of me. Okay. Samo says, if the recent bill that was passed in the Senate. I don't know what you're referring to. You mean COVID relief? I don't know what this is about. I don't understand how. Maybe it's just the the way you wrote the question. Senate breaks filibuster on an Asian American hate crime bill. Oh, okay. So it's not COVID hate crime, it's Asian American hate crime bill. That makes more sense. I didn't even read it. I'm one man. So there are, usually every week there's a few stories, at least a few that I miss. I did not see this at all. So I completely missed this. I'll have to look more into it. Assuming that's what you're talking about. All right, what else here? Mateus N says Norway's about to fail to pass decriminalizing drug possession despite having 70% support. How did Canada succeed, and what do you recommend going forward? So Canada did not pass decriminalizing drug possession. We legalized marijuana, or cannabis, better way to say it. But yeah, we legalized cannabis, but in terms of like the country to actually look to in drug policy is Portugal. They decriminalized all drugs, I think 15 years ago now, 16 years ago. And since then, they used to be have one of the highest rates in overdoses in Portugal, and one of the highest rates of crime around drugs in Portugal. Since decriminalizing, that's come down completely, and they are now the lowest in all of Europe in terms of OD and other issues related to drugs. So, and the issue isn't just decriminalizing drugs, it's also putting money into healthcare. So Portugal both decriminalized all drugs and put that money into, or resources into healthcare to help people who were, maybe addicts. And obviously they realized that criminalizing drugs did not help anybody, and that the actual solution was to help these people who needed that help. So look to Portugal. And I have a video, an old video, I think from 2017 maybe, on discussing exactly what Portugal did. So if you look up Portugal on my channel, you will see that. All right. Let me see what else I got here. Okay, I may still do a story on this one, so I'm gonna skip that. Same with this one. Oh, this is a good story. Not really a good story, but it's a funny clip. Let me just share this. All right. Can I do a story on this? Let's see. No, I can't really. This is like a one clip thing. But let me just show you. All right, here you go. John Cornyn grills Assistant Attorney General nominee Kristen Clark about an article she wrote for her college paper, seemingly oblivious to the fact that it was satire. So this is an incredible moment. If you haven't seen this, it's pretty funny.
Well, maybe there's a misprint, but I'm sure you can clear it up for me. Dating back to your days when in school, when you seemed to argue that African Americans were genetically superior to Caucasians. Is that correct?
No, Senator. That I believe you're referring to an op-ed that I wrote at the age of 19 about the bell curve theory, a racist book that equated DNA with genetics and race. As a Black student at Harvard that time, we took grave offense to this book. It was co-authored by a Harvard professor. We did a number of events to speak out against the book, and this op-ed opened with a satirical reference to the statement that you just noted. Contemporaneous reporting by the campus paper made very clear that this was not a view that I espoused. What I was seeking to do was to hold up a mirror and put one racist theory alongside another to challenge people as to why we were unwilling to wholly reject the racist theory that defined the bell curve book.
So this was satire?
Absolutely, Senator.
And where was that published?
in the student paper, the Harvard Crimson, and there's contemporaneous reporting from that time, from that day, that makes clear that these were not views that I espouse, Senator.
His reaction at the end is just priceless. This is the clownish conservative view, or the clownish view that conservatives have on liberals, or I should say the left. They think that we're these people that they assume we are. It is so it's amazing to me that he saw that piece and thought it was real. Unbelievable how stupid these people are. But again, they're in this world of propaganda, where even lawmakers don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I mean, oftentimes they're really just pushing propaganda, and it's obvious, and they know they're lying. But in a situation like this, you realize, wait, some of them actually believe the bullshit they're spewing. And yeah, he actually thought that was a real article, because he's completely insane. All right, what else here? Oh, we were just talking about cannabis. I'm not going to cover this in a separate video, so let's watch this. Also, am I the only one that didn't know that Tucker Carlson had a show called Tucker Carlson Today? This is a new show. I didn't know about this, but as you see from the caption here, weed might cause you to vomit uncontrollably. Tucker, yes, I've seen that. Let's watch it.
Community will acknowledge that cannabis can cause, a fair number of people, especially if you use heavily, to have kind of short-term psychotic reactions, right? A bad trip.
But they're peaceful, though, because marijuana makes you peaceful.
Yeah.
It's the Mahatma Gandhi drug.
That's right. That's right. That's why violence has gone down so much in the United States in the last 5 years.
Let me just stop there. Imagine, this is the problem that a lot of people get into, is their little field of work. They think that that's the dominant thing in the world, or so he will look at marijuana use and just assume that's the reason that everything's gotten worse. When this, it's a very limited worldview where someone like this is unable to just look outside themselves for a second and realize, hey, you know what? Maybe this has nothing to do with anything, and maybe I'm just obsessed with these numbers and are trying to place them against data that proves the point I'm trying to make. But obviously, there's no connection here, but he tries to make it.
Has gone down so much in the United States in the last 5 years.
So you think that there is, I'm just being completely honest. I grew up in Southern California. I smoked marijuana as a child. Everyone I knew believed that it mellowed you out. So you're saying there's evidence of the opposite.
Oh yeah, there's something called.
And watch how Tucker will just disregard his own experience and just take on whatever this propagandist is saying.
Cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. Okay, what that basically means is uncontrolled vomiting as a result of THC use.
Yes, I've seen
now,
that.
Cannabis is supposed to settle your stomach. If you're nauseated, smoke some, right? That was sort of one of the famous uses of it.
I also just want to mention, the idea of this kind of propaganda is to say, oh, we shouldn't legalize marijuana. The reality is, if you want to get cannabis, you're going to get it. People are already getting it. Canada, it's been legalized here for a few years, but the rates of use has not really gone up because people were getting it before it was legalized. So making it illegal does not make it unattainable. I mean, that's often what these people are trying to push, the idea that, oh, we shouldn't legalize it because that means everyone will get it. People are getting it anyways. And none of these things that he is claiming is happening.
Of course.
For chemotherapy.
For chemo patients.
That's right. But it looks like there's this paradoxical effect if you use too much of it, that for whatever reason somehow it resets the receptors in the brain for some people, and they have this just terrible uncontrolled vomiting that in some cases can actually kill. I'm not exaggerating, because you become so dehydrated it can kill you if you're not careful, if you don't get to an emergency room. So
Tucker's even smart. I'm sure he will cite some data here to back up these points. Of course.
So paradoxically, so in the short term, marijuana
No
can
data?
reduce
No data?
anxiety, certainly, and it can get you high. But like most anti-anxiety drugs, you can have bad rebound anxiety if you try to quit. I mean, that's true of benzodiazepines too. That's a known risk. Okay.
Yes.
Further, cannabis has this effect on people where it makes them paranoid. Some people.
Just to discuss that point, I'm a cannabis user. It is legal in Canada. I legally use. I've stopped for weeks at a time, like when I've gone on vacation or I, just wanted to take a break. The only side effect is that it's hard to fall asleep. That's it. But I'm not getting, headaches. If I stop drinking coffee for a few days, I will get massive headaches. If I stop using cannabis for a few days, nothing. But the way we label certain things drugs and not others, how is caffeine not labeled a drug, but cannabis is? When there's clearly more of an impact on you when you stop using one over the other. And again, if you have trouble sleeping, I guess that's a side effect. But, it's nowhere near getting off of painkillers. Like, it's nowhere even close.
Has this effect on people where it makes them paranoid. Some people, some of the time. Okay. And if you have this predisposition or if you're sliding into mental illness and you start smoking a lot, you may sort of temporarily muffle that anxiety at the cost of your paranoid symptoms getting worse.
Yeah, people can get paranoid occasionally. Everything works out fine. Ultimately, I'm not sure what, again, that's what they're trying to say here. Marijuana linked to paranoia and psychosis. No, it is not. Countless data showing this that, this has been debunked a million times. I don't have it in front of me. But if you look up the attempted connection between marijuana and psychosis, it's simply not there. So I don't know how many times we've got to debunk this shit, but I think we've done decades and decades of debunking this shit, which is why countries, some have legalized it, many states have legalized it. And is there mass psychosis? Are people vomiting all over the streets? No. So this is just complete bullshit. And of course, yes, as chat's saying, alcohol is way worse, obviously, and that is legal and regulated, as it should be. Any substance, the way to actually control it is to legalize it and regulate it. That's how you actually control its distribution, its use. You, by making it illegal, you just give it to the black market, and that generates more crime, of course, and also leads to side effects like certain substance being cut with more dangerous drugs. I want to use examples here, but YouTube will censor me. But you know what I'm saying. When something is illegal, it's going to be cut with something even worse for you. And then those people end up using that and they die. Whereas if it's legalized and regulated and under government control, that simply doesn't happen. So anyways, as I discussed earlier, the first approach to all of this would be to decriminalize all drugs, as Portugal did 15 years ago, and put money into healthcare to help people who are addicts. But there you go. Tucker Carlson Today. Never even heard of that show till now. Some more chats here. Rhino Wiki says Utah passed a BDS law waiting to be signed by governor. Should get some attention if you haven't heard about it. I'm assuming it's anti-BDS law, right? I would be shocked if Utah passed a pro-BDS law. But yeah, I'll look out for that. Jared Cardenas says thoughts on Huey Long, second-term potential primary opponent to FDR, but was assassinated. He was critical of the New Deal, attacking it from the left. I don't know enough to comment. Dexy Grand says, not sure if you saw it, but Trevor Noah put out a video the other day about him asking where the good apples are. I think I saw something on Twitter. I just don't watch Trevor Noah. I'm sure occasionally he has some good moments, but The Daily Show just completely downhill after Jon Stewart left. All right. What else did I have here? Oh. Nah. I might do a video on that in the future. This one. Here we go. Let's end on this. Can I make a video out of this? Can I? Can I? I can try. Sure, why not? I'm sure it'll be horrible, but let's see what happens. We have yet another example of a conservative changing their mind or evolving on an issue once it happens to them. This time, it is going to be Jesse Waters here, of course, of Fox News, saying that he is now pro-paternity. Check this out.
I think it's safe to say I'm the only one on the show that's been peed on twice today.
No, not true.
And well, maybe not Gutfeld.
Yes.
The night's young for Greg. But my father said just today, Jesse, you better get back on the 5 pretty soon. Your replacements have been really good. I was like, thanks, Dad. But now I'm pro paternity. I used to mock people for taking paternity. I used to think it was a big ruse, but now, I wish I could take 6 weeks, but I don't know. Apparently, I have people nipping at my heels, so I gotta be back.
Look at him.
You know, one thing I know.
You gotta have the baby to take 6 months.
One thing.
Of course. Of course. How often does this have to happen to conservatives for them to learn that they're wrong about every issue? Do they need to be poor? Do they need to be black? Do they need to be a woman? Do they need to, I don't know, we can go down the list. Do they need to, lack health care? Homeless? I mean, you can apply this to every single issue. These are people who will not evolve or change their mind on a single policy unless it affects them personally. And there are so many examples of this. Meghan McCain, the exact same evolution. How do you not realize that people don't live the exact same life as you do and maybe have different needs, different experiences, but they just don't, and they don't care. And it's just amazing to me. And by the way, he said he wanted 6 weeks. If he was in Canada, he could get up to 18 months. Actually, he couldn't, but his wife couldn't, or his wife could. But obviously, the most vital time for a child is in the first year. You have to be there for them. They need that support. They need you there. And the idea that a lot of people, or the fact that a lot of people don't have paternity leave or maternity leave, is just really sad. It's because you are setting up a generation, or I should say generations, to grow up in a world where they really are not being properly taken care of in their first 6 months to a year. Kids need their parents. And I mean, this isn't just in general. The science shows this. The science shows that it is vital for kids to be with their parents in that first year. And this is why countries have maternity leave or parental leave, for this very reason. But in America, it's very different. And for conservatives, of course, it takes that personal experience to actually realize that. All right, look at that. Pulled a segment out of my ass. Let me grab some more chats here. My stomach is beginning to growl, even though it's early. So I'm getting off soon, but let me grab some of these chats. Where was I? James M says, you and Mike should play Smash Bros. I agree. Mike, you still watching? I will play some Smash Bros with you, which I haven't played in a long time. Actually, I saw Mike was playing Monster Hunter the other day. Thinking about picking that up. Maybe we can hunt some monsters together. There's an idea. All right. Maybe I should just end there. What do you think? What do you think? All right, so again, this weekend, of course, assuming things work out fine and I don't, if I'm free, and I think I will be, Sunday night, I will be on Twitch. Link is below the video, twitch.tv/TheRationalNational. And before I go, make sure you like this stream, hit that bell icon so you are notified when a video goes up or when I go live. And share the video around. Share other videos around. The worst part of YouTube is how they treat independent media. So the only way to combat that really is to have people share their videos around. So share these videos around. Help out not just me, but other independent channels as well. And yeah, there we go. All right, thank you all. One last refresh to make sure I don't want to miss anybody. And there's always about like a minute delay on the stream, so if I miss you, I apologize. Oh, good thing I checked. 2 more in. Thomas Power says, yo, Dave, after being unemployed for a year, finally found a job. Here's a little cash. Go buy some diapers or onesies. By the way, you should collaborate with Joe Rogan. Is that a joke? Thank you, Thomas. Unfortunately, Joe Rogan's show has, he's lost it. Go check out Progressive Voice. He put a video out, I think yesterday, on Joe Rogan had on Dan Crenshaw, who of course is a Republican. And it was the first time that Joe Rogan discovered that the stimulus checks went to people making up to $75K, and Rogan thought that was too much. He agreed with Dan Crenshaw in saying that those checks should have only gone to people who lost their job. Rogan in the past has said that Kyle Kalinski's his favorite YouTuber. If he actually watched Kyle, he would realize that, or hopefully understand, that the checks first weren't high enough and didn't go out to enough people. Kyle covered that issue perfectly, but Joe Rogan, I think, is since making that Spotify cash, has really completely lost it. And if you go check out the original video, the original clip on Joe Rogan's YouTube channel, him and Dan Crenshaw talking about the stimulus checks, look at, first of all, the downvotes. It has more downvotes, surprisingly, for a Joe Rogan video than likes. And also the comments are just slamming him, talking about how he's out of touch. So, Rogan is not someone that I really think, and honestly, I don't think he's as powerful as maybe he once was since leaving YouTube. Spotify, I'm sure, of course, made him a lot of money. But in terms of his reach, there's just less of a chance for people to organically find his content. They will see clips on YouTube still, but they won't see the full episodes. And I do think it's at least had somewhat of an impact. That said, of course, his platform is massive, so he still has a impact on people, a lot of people. But in terms of discoverability and getting a new audience in, I think he's kind of hit his limit. But of course, that's my speculation. Jessica McKenzie saying, I'm a member now. Thank you, Jessica, for joining. And also thank you to other members. I will, let me quickly scroll through here, see if I missed any other new members. Also, thank you to all the new patrons that joined this week as well. As a lot of you saw that YouTube has been screwing us and you helped out. So thank you so much. I think Jessica is the only new member on YouTube. Thank you so much, Jessica, for becoming a member. Oh, Stephanie Green. Also, thank you for becoming a member. Awesome. All right. And also, if I missed anybody, I apologize. All right. Good. Again, on Twitch on Sunday night, hit the, or follow me on there so you also know when I go live there. And there we go. All right. See you all next week or Sunday. Goodbye.